Good day, everyone. I am Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Cast, the Malaga fan podcast on Sport Direct Radio and as part of the Sport Social Podcast Network. It doesn't matter what time we kick off or how close to kickoff you want to change that kickoff time, we'll still get the same old Malaga performance at the moment. Some improvements this week, some might stay, but still lacking in the final third. Our boys had to come from behind after going 1-0 down in the 7th minute to a relegation-threatened Merida. But we finally set up Dione for an equalising tap-in after what has to be one of the slickest passing moves of our season so far. And speaking of slick, let me introduce you to my Cast co-host for this episode. It's Luke Chambers. How are you, Luke?
Evening, Matt. I'm very well. The sunshine's come out on the Costa del Doncaster for a change. Yeah. So it's bringing a lot of fresh faces. But yeah, I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. Has Doncaster been hit by playoff fever this past week?
Doncaster really has been hit by playoff fever. Looking at about 13,000 in I call it the keep mode. These days it's the Eco Power or whatever crap it is. But it's a town to me. I know we're recently a city, but the town is absolutely buzzing with playoff fever.
Yes, they won 2-0 last night, I think, didn't they?
Won 2-0, played very well. They've now, I know Carl Smith will correct me on this, but I believe that they're unbeaten in 17 or something during that run. 10 wins on the bounce, then a draw, then a win again. And it's looking good. It really is, mate.
Yeah, they've had a great second half of the season, unlike the club we are doing a podcast about. Perhaps we should start with some congratulations, though. We should perhaps say congratulations to Castellón, who were crowned champions of the league this past match day. And of course, that means they are going up to the Segunda División. It was never in doubt pretty much from match day one, it felt, Luke.
No, not at all. They've gone up as champions, and rightly so. They're a club that shouldn't really be at this level, I don't really think. They're well-backed, a great fan base. It's what we should be, minus the well-backed part. But like you've just said, Matt, they've been number one since day one, basically. They improved the squad with little bits what they needed in January. And I think they'll do quite well in Segunda, to be fair.
Yeah. They because obviously they were in Segunda a couple of seasons ago, and they went straight back down. But this time, they've got Bob behind the scenes. Bob Vulgaris. I can never say. I think it's a Greek name. Who's the guy that's linked to I forgot what team. The Denver Mavericks. They're definitely called the Mavericks. He is the Guardian did an interview with him a couple of weeks ago, which was very, very interesting. And he's a very ambitious man. And, he's got a good manager. They got in Dick Schreider. And he, again, apologies for my Dutch pronunciation there, but he's got 2 promotions in 2 years with 2 different clubs in 2 different countries. He is a man that's very much in demand, it seems. He's been linked with the final job.
I think that could be the only issue. If Dick went somewhere, then that, like you've just said, there's a huge part of that team.
Well, one of the headlines in the local Castellón press is a quote from him, "Nos vemos en el año que viene," which is we will see each other next year. So he is talking the talk at the moment. But
I mean, if a club like Feyenoord comes calling for you whilst you're newly promoted to Segunda, come on. I think we all know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, he's had a fun career so far. And we should say as well that ascension, that promotion came a little bit earlier than planned, because I don't think anyone expected Recreativo Granada to beat Cordoba 3-0.
Granada have very much turned into the informed team in the league since getting relegated. They've won 5-0, 1-0, 3-0, I believe. Strange how this happens in football, once the pressure's off.
Yeah, it is. It sort of makes sense, I guess, from a psychological perspective. But well done to Castellón, very deserved. Like I think I've said in the podcast before, their fans looked after us great on the first game of the season. They're an exciting football club. I bear no grudge against them. And also, as I've shown before, I am a card-holding Peña member Castellón.
I knew I'd seen this somewhere.
Yeah. just so we could use their bar. Me and Stephen Moss are Pena holders, Pena card holders of Castellon. Those to know loyal Malaga fan Stephen Moss, who was at the game this week. Which obviously that brings us on to our, shall we say, predicament? I don't think it's a predicament, but our situation. We are going for the playoffs. Certain media outlets in error reported they're in the playoffs. Not very professional outlets. We won't name them, will we, Luke?
No, it was a busy day, Matt. You know what I mean. And then I had it confirmed by our Mr. Real Madrid, who you would expect a lot more from. But yeah, so looking into it, we can still be caught by Recreativo Huelva. And the only way this can happen is Recre win their remaining 3. We lose our remaining 3. As they're 8 points behind, that would mean that they go 1 point in front. So basically, we need 1 point from our 3 games. But more importantly, I think, is Ceuta are only 4 points behind us now. And there's a big difference between finishing 4th and 5th, because if we finish 5th, we play the second team in Grupo Uno, which is Barcelona Bay, who are absolutely firing at the moment.
Well, from a selfish point of view,
you would look, yeah.
Well, no, because I was when I saw fellow Giri caster Nick Bell had booked a little city break to Barcelona. I've noticed I go to Barcelona about once a year, and I actually love Barcelona. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll go in June. And then I was like, oh no, well, if we play 4 playoff games, which I know is assuming a lot, I'm not going to have a weekend to go to Barcelona. So I thought, be nice to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But of course, we could also get a Gimnastic Tarragona, which is also
the one I want. I've got Laura's just came back from Salou yesterday, which is 10 minutes away from Tarragona. Fly to Reus, again 15 minutes away. And I started looking and thinking, hold on, we're currently playing Gimnastic. I thought, let me have a look at these flights. You can get flights like 80 quid. And then obviously, like you know yourself, the clogs start turning. Is this possible? So at the moment, I need everything to stay the same for a little dream trip to Tarragona.
And for those real GiriCast fanboys and fangirls and fandems out there, they'll remember when I did the Vamos episode, when I went to Andorra and Villarreal, I did have a night in Tarragona, and I can confirm it's a lovely little town. I think I did want to stay in Salou when I went, actually, but it was crazy expensive that week, so I chose Tarragona instead. But yeah, and just perhaps to clear one thing up there, because I know some people have asked me about this, that Luke has rightly said that, we just need 1 point, and some people might go, oh, what about goal difference? Goal difference does not play a part here, and we have a better head-to-head against Huelva after we drew there and beat them 1-0, I think, at La Rosaleda.
No, we beat them 4-1 away. Sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. I'm thinking of Murphy. Yeah, you're correct, Matt. 1-1 away and 2-0 at home.
2-0, that's right. I couldn't remember if it's them if we put 2 past them or a beefer. You're right, it was them, though.
Recre was the game where we actually did start with a tempo.
Yes.
That's why it sticks out so much.
That seems a long time ago.
It does.
And yeah, hopefully we can find some tempo. We should perhaps, we won't do too much on this now, because obviously we've got a preview show later in the week. Malaga go to San Fernando Sunday afternoon. 16,000 tickets on sale. I've not really dug too much into it yet, but I'd be surprised if there's any left by the end of the week. We seem to sell out. It's not that far away. It's still about 2.5 hours, I think, 2 or 3. Sorry, excuse me. But yeah, I don't know.
It's like you know better than anybody, Matt. I think the Malaga fans are relishing this season with the away trips. It's a lot more local than the La Liga or Segunda games could be. Rightly so, take advantage of it. See these places, as you obviously are.
Yeah, I've been through San Fernando on a train, and for anyone going, I can't tell you the stadium is literally overlooks the train station, so it's not a long walk from the train station. It does look like a big athletic stadium, but again, we'll save San Fernando chat for the preview pod. But yeah, again, lots of tickets on sale, lots of Malaga fans expected, and then just the only other little bit of news we should mention really is we did a lot on the 120th anniversary. Obviously, we did all the stuff about the kits, and I feel like we did something else. Oh, the chase, of course, the silly chase through the city. But there was also mention of a new sort of hymno, and there's more information about that. I think we said last time that the singer El Canca, who, you know, I do not know much about, I've not listened to his back catalogue since we mentioned him last time. Apologies. They've announced the song will be released on the 17th of May in the sort of usual places, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, etc. And it's going to be called Una Cosa Inexplicable, which is an inexplicable thing or an unexplainable thing.
Which Malaga definitely is.
Well, yeah, exactly. I've got some a couple of quotes from him I stole earlier, which is I have my heart in my mouth, hoping that it will be liked, but it will delight all the fans and the inexplicable people of my inexplicable city. For now, I'll tell you a surprise that I've been dying to reveal. I'm not alone in the adventure. I'll be accompanied by the voice of my countrywoman, which I don't think is translated well there, Maria Pellicer, who's another singer. And he has said other things. It is going to be exciting, epic, and spoke a little about Malaga and the team. Apparently he did. Yeah, I didn't really understand the second bit. It was sort of hard to translate.
Is it just going to be a song, Matt? A song just to represent the club? I mean,
it's a guitar song.
Yeah, can you remember in the 90s when football clubs used to do it quite regular? Like, I remember Man United with the run like a red somewhere. I can't remember, but you couldn't imagine our dressing room getting involved with El Canca, could you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they feature in the music video. It'd be, I don't know. There's really not.
I don't really know what to expect from it.
It sounds like it's going to be a traditional Spanish guitar song with a bit of a twist, but again, I'm sort of reading. There's not a lot out there, but you know, all the best to El Canca. Hope it's good. Yeah, let's go from something inexplicable to something quite explicable. Is the Malaga result, because it's always quite easy to explain these days because it's the same thing keeps happening basically. Actually, perhaps before we talk about the game, let's quickly mention our friend of the podcast, Yuki, who we mentioned on the preview show that with the changing kickoff, he might have not been able to make the game at La Rosaleda on Sunday at midday. It sounds like he made a decision not to go. He had booked a trip to Alhambra, which of course is, you know, one of the, you know, must visit tourist sites in the whole of Spain, let alone Andalusia. And he decided he'd always wanted to go there. So he stuck with his plan, which is fair enough. He went to the club shop and bought the tracksuit and things like that. And he met a lot of Malaga fans. And, you know, I've seen lots of the media writing about him. David Picon's done a big thing about him. He has very much been embraced by Malaga fans. And I guess the way we have to look at it now is he has to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like we were talking off air, Matt, when we're on about vintage soccer AM. Can you remember the campaign Save Chip?
Yeah, of course.
The campaign for justice for Yuki. Let's get him back.
That was my hashtag. Yeah, I still think personally, I don't know if anything's gone on behind the scenes, and I don't know, he's been a bit modest, but I do think the club should have done something or should do something for him.
Massively. I mean, there can't be too many Malaga fans in the regions of Asia and stuff like that. Like, the club should really look at people like that to promote the club and just enjoy him being a fan of the club.
Yeah, because like I just said, the local press and ourselves have picked up on the story. Like, we've been Yuki's been on our radar for a couple of seasons now, and we enjoy those stories. So like, come on, Malaga. Like, why don't you do this more? Like you said, even, you know, with a cynical hat on, even from like a marketing perspective.
Huge.
Yeah, it's and we should say,
I think David Picon's got, if anybody wants to read into it a bit more, I'm sure David Picon's actually put a thread up with like the story of Yuki's Malaga fan career, I guess.
Yeah, fandom. I don't know.
Fandom, that's one.
Yeah, I don't think you have a fan career, but
no, it didn't sound right as soon as I said it. I will admit.
Yeah, and anyone wants to follow him, just to sum up his Malaga fandom, on Twitter or X, if you want to call it that, it is at Isco Nistelrooy. So there's his Malaga loyalties right there laid bare in his Twitter name. Just quickly as well, I was going to quickly mention, we mentioned Yuki couldn't make the game. A little bit of we usually do like how great is the Malaga's fans traveling at home. Fair play to the little crowd of Merida fans that made it for the game. And I say little, I don't mean that in a patronizing way, because there was a nice sort of little contingent of them that made it down, and they were parts of the game. They were very loud and getting behind the team. And I think their manager even said in the post-match press conference that, like, he could hear them, and he think it really helped the team. So respect to them for still making their way down south from the middle.
You've got to think how quickly their plans must have changed regarding the kick. I understand I believe like when Malaga goes somewhere, they want to get there a few hours before, but a 7 hours difference of kickoff time, you're like, that's a huge change.
And it's about, again, I'm sort of, I don't know how accurate I am here, about 7 or 8 hours to Merida, I think.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember, because obviously I was victim to this in the other game, wasn't I? Where I booked the train. I think the train was about 7 or 8 hours, so driving probably more. Yeah, fair play. It is quite far, but don't hold me.
They've actually got this. Yeah, you're right. Roughly about 6.5 hours worth of traveling.
Yeah. Yes, in the sort of middle of nowhere. It's I think we said last week actually with Alex, so I can't remember if it was on air or off air. It's probably the one part of Spain I've not really been to now. So Extremadura is on my hit list in maybe the summer. And Merida, because it looks like a beautiful city, but lots of Roman ruins. Anyway, let's go to the Malaga starting 11 as usual before we talk about the game. A few surprises. I guess Carlos Puga has been in and out, so it's always a little bit surprised when he starts. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about him. David Ferreira was back in, less of a surprise. Obviously, he'd been suspended. And then not only was Ramon in the starting 11, but he was captain as well. I think the captain thing surprised me more than the starting 11 thing, Luke.
Yeah, I think the captain thing was maybe more of a statement. I don't know, maybe to get all the fans on board, but I personally were unbelievably happy to see Ramon finally get his start. He's always been one of my favourite Malaga players, whether that's supporting the club or just being a football manager wonder kid. I've on many games I've managed Malaga, and Ramon's been the top player. But it's just a shame that we haven't seen much of him over the last 2 years. When you think about it, he's such a talented player, and injuries have taken over. I mean, everybody on this podcast and who listens will probably agree that we are a much better team when Ramon's on that pitch. It's just a shame that we don't get to see him on that pitch.
Yeah, well, I guess we may as well stay with the subject of Ramon before we talk about like other parts of the game, because obviously the sad story is that after 22 minutes, I don't think there was a foul or anything. He sort of just looked up and gestured that he probably needed to come off. You could just feel the stadium, this sigh, and it just went silent. And in a way, I think there was a little bit of relief that we could sort of tell it looked precautionary. It's not like he was on the floor, head in hands. So that was positive. But
the scary thing is, like you've just said, Matt, it's an off the ball injury. They're the ones. If you're a player who's been injured a lot, what keep coming back and back. If you're struggling with your muscles, etc. We've seen so many great players over the years who just can't get going.
Yeah,
due to injuries.
And I think I'm right in saying that it is the same muscle as it's been causing problems. It's not like he's overstretched himself somewhere else, which, like you said, is a worry. And to be fair, I think Pellicer has handled him as well as he could here. Like he's obviously he's given him pockets of time, and half an hour and 20 minutes and 10 minutes. But there's got to come a time, isn't there, where we've just got to throw him in. Otherwise, what's the point? It's
we've been waxing lyrical and asking the questions. We want Ramon to start. We need Ramon to start. But like you've just said, a bit of credit for Sergio Pellicer in terms of his handling of Ramon, because he knows how good of a player he is. Any manager wants their best player to be playing. But if he knows he's not physically ready for that until now, I mean, I had one when I was playing, I broke my 5th metatarsal. I'm out for 6 weeks or something. The old Beckham injury. I trained for 3 weeks on it, no problems whatsoever. First game at season, I went into it. I lasted 6 minutes. It went again. And so it's probably like Ramon. In terms of Ramon, he's trained fine. He's looked fine when he's come on for 20 minutes, 50. Then when he starts, I don't know. It's just a really strange thing again for him.
Yeah, we should say we're recording this like two days after the game. There's no news as we record. It's the early murmurs are it's not serious and it's precautionary, but I'm a little worried. I'll be honest with you.
What do you do now then, Matt? With 3 games remaining, ideally you don't want to put him in cotton wool and hide him for 3 games because he needs to keep ticking over. But then you know how important he'll be if fit in the playoffs.
Yeah, but then the other sort of fear I'd have is he's been very good off the bench in games, and I actually thought he started this game really well as well, actually. But then I don't know, in a playoff semi-final, asterisks if we get to the playoff semi-final, do you risk bringing him off the bench and potentially getting injured and us being caught with 10 men? I don't know. It is a complicated one, and I don't know really.
What happens if this again is a serious injury or a couple of months? Obviously, Ramon's contract's up at the end of the season. This could work in our favour a little bit in terms of I know he spoke positively about extending, but if he's injured, there's not going to be teams coming in for him, I guess.
I'd still take him.
This is what in terms of a selfish point of view for the club, this could work in terms of extending his deal with Malaga. If he's fit, we know that there's going to be bigger clubs coming in for him in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. But I can't see. I'm really confident he'll be at Malaga next year. No matter.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I cannot see any. So hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed that there'll be good news and everything is okay. Tell you what was not okay was Malaga's start to this game. It took 7 minutes for Merida to score. I'd only watched the highlights back about 45 minutes before we pressed record tonight, and it looked bad in the stadium. It looked even worse in the highlights.
But I was obviously doing the minute by minutes, and I think I summed it up as Sunday League defending. Like, really, this should not be happening at this point in the season. When, in truth, until the last couple of weeks, we've praised our defence all year round, and rightly so. We don't concede many goals, but our back line were more like a circle. Yeah, I think that sums it up basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure which way round it was, but I think it was Monte was like almost like he was marking Juande or was Juande, and it sort of went through the gap between them both, and then it was just like a clear route to goal. And that was a goal. Like in the stadium, I thought, oh, that looked really bad, but maybe it was a really good pass, and it was a good pass as well.
Yeah, to be fair to Bussy, I think he was called Bussy. He took his goal very well. Can't knock him.
Which is an unfortunate name, which I have to explain why off air it's a bit rude.
To be honest, I didn't think he looked a bad player.
No,
on their counter, he did look quite dangerous. The kind of player what we may miss when Roberto's not there.
Yeah, it's so I can't say his name.
What is it? What's it mean then?
It's gay slang for something. So we'll leave it there. I like people Google it, spelled slightly different, but it's the same sort of pronunciation.
You learn so much in the Geary casting in that part of the world.
Yeah, and again, like they did seem to wake us up a little bit. Dione had that one-on-one, which I'll be honest with you, in the stadium, I thought, oh, he's really wide there. And having seen the highlights back, I'm like, oh no, he should have scored that.
Yeah, he should have.
And again, was it Ferreiro with the ball or Puga? It was a great ball to him. Anyway.
I think it was Puga. And I saw him early on. I didn't ignore it. But when you said about with Puga, for me, Puga, I am very surprised every time he does play. However, looking back at his performances, he's very rarely done anything wrong.
It's funny. I've made a note of that myself, actually. I've said, like, every time I see him in the lineup, I don't go, oh, what? But I do sort of
you think you're weakened a little bit or something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But
But yeah, I think in the first game I wasn't so keen on him, but since then he's been great. And to be honest with you, I thought, I was sitting with a friend of the podcast, Joe Faint, and I kept saying to him, "How good's Puga? How good's
yeah,
he?" And him and Ferrero, they were linking up. They looked to have like a really good relationship, like really quickly, and seemed to be bouncing off each other. Which I'm sure we'll get onto it in a bit. Which is the complete opposite to what was happening on the left side of them.
completely. I mean, like you've said, Matt, this was a huge chance, and it was a very important part of the game. I mean, Merida had just gone 1-0 up. If we'd equalised, I would have had no concerns. We would have gone on to win that game with the momentum, etc. But the crazy thing about this, I've got zero faith in Dione.
Me too.
In them situations. However, he is the league's all-time top goal scorer. So I understand it sounds quite bizarre saying this, but I don't know. I just don't understand Dione. I think he's so slow, so everything.
I think that's a good way to sum him up is I don't understand him. Because in this game, in the stadium, I don't know if you might have seen it differently, but we've said, we need him to be a number 9. And he was anchoring himself up front a lot more than he usually does. Because obviously we talk about he floats around the place and things like that. I sort of wanted him to do the floating around the place thing a bit more because he seemed just to be not getting involved in the game until obviously the end.
If you didn't know Dione, Matt, if you didn't know he were apparently a centre forward, you watched him in training or something, what position would you be picking for him? What would you be thinking? I think he could do a centre midfield job.
Maybe, yeah, because he doesn't look like a sort of floaty number 10 or
Exactly
someone that comes off the wing. But I think like we've played our best football when he's perhaps started a little out wide. But
yeah, I mean, you look back at earlier in the season, you're completely correct. And none of us understood why you were out there, but looking back at results, it were working.
And obviously that's where he got his screamer against the Utah from. And but yeah, like there's certain players ahead of him I'd put out on the right now. So yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I don't understand him. I can't say I've completely written him off. He certainly wouldn't be in my starting 11. I think there's something there, but we're in May now. I expected to see him at the top of the goal scoring charts, and he's not. He's sort of that was his first goal. Well, we'll get to the goal, but it was his first goal in 2 months. So that sums it up. Just going back to the Ramon thing, so obviously he missed that chance. Then the Ramon injury. David Larrubia came on, which saw like a bit of a shift with Danny Lorenzo dropping back. I was really worried about, I've not been big on David Larrubia recently. And I thought, here we go again. But I thought he was much better second half, actually. He was there was a bit more about him than previous games. I don't know if you thought the same.
Yeah, he had a decent game. I basically got it as he did all right, but I'm going to be a bit critical of him here. Surely this is the kind of game where we expect a David Larrubia playing at home against 6th bottom in the league. A team what were really standing off Malaga, allowing Malaga to have the ball and a lot of space. If he's the floating number 10 that we all at the beginning of the season thought he was, or we hoped he were going to be, this is the kind of performance I expect from Larrubia. But yeah, he looked better. He looked better.
Yeah. I forgot as well until a bit into the game that, of course, this is him and Danny Lorenzo's former club where they did very well last year.
So when you sent the agenda over earlier, for some reason I was thinking something along this line.
Yeah. So anyway, someone there's Malaga were 1-0 down at halftime. Kevin got subbed at halftime. Were we thinking that's fair?
Yeah, 100%. I thought Kevin were really bad this game. In the first half, the 3 things what I remember is 3 very, very overhit crosses, which Kevin is normally decent. His delivery is not normally too bad, but he just looks very off it at the moment, Kevin, for me.
Yeah, he wasn't good in this game. It was the bit where I think the first time he had the ball was when like he put his foot on it and then he was sort of like, how am I going to dribble past this guy? And I think he did something in the end and I thought, all right, okay, that's quite like, that's a bit of swag from Kev.
Yeah.
It's didn't fully come off. Maybe he's going to edge his way into it. And yeah, he was awful, to be honest.
I think Kevin's one of them players. I know it's an old football cliche and that, but you can kind of gather what kind of game Kevin's going to have in the first 5 minutes.
Well, that's what I thought. This made me think, all right, he looks quite cocky and stuff. And it made me think he was going to have a good game. And then, yeah, it was the crossing in particular for me. But
Really bad. Yeah, really bad.
It was, and there was too many times where I don't know, he's like Ferrero and Puga, they were like, bouncing off each other. There was 1-2s. And, even when they weren't really getting anywhere, they were sort of like taking it back and switching it. And yeah, just down that left when Kevin was slowing it all down. It was,
it's been strange, to be fair, Matt, regarding our left-hand side, because if you remember early in the season, we were all going crazy for our left-hand side was our strongest point.
Yeah, definitely.
I think recent weeks, Victor's been very quiet, whether it's Victor or Danny Sanchez. Kevin's been very hit and miss. Aviles, for some reason, floats in and out.
Well, actually, I think in regards of left, I think he's great, Victor, but I think Danny Sanchez has been better over recent weeks. I think every time he's made a cameo, he does something, and obviously, he does score a goal in this, which was disallowed, which we'll perhaps talk about shortly.
I think Victor's very much struggled since his not recent anymore. He had an injury where out for about a month, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like November though. I keep thinking,
so this season's been quite shit.
Yeah, because I remember like he put that cross in Linares, which in Linares for me was like, oh yeah, that was like December. And it's like, nope, that was the 4th game of the season.
Crazy.
I've lost track of time a bit this year, but I suppose the positive for me though, and I don't know if you agree, Antonito came on for Kevin. Obviously, him and Izan Moreno started played a lot of games just for Christmas, and then have sort of disappeared. I thought Antonito was really good, actually. I thought he was decent. Like, I don't think he was he's not going to be a Kevin and like run past and dribble people, but I thought he kept us ticking over out on the left. He was sort of playing in front of us, obviously where I sit in the stadium, and yeah, I thought he had a positive performance.
Yeah, I think honestly, I see a lot in Antonito. I know he's not really shone too much for us, but I'd love to see more of him. He brings something we haven't really got. He brings the unknown to the team.
Yeah,
like he's raw, pacey, he's confident on the ball, and he'll grow with more time. Same as your likes of Ochoa, Izan Moreno, etc. These players are the future of Malaga. And for me, recently, it's been the perfect time to use them because the so-called first teamers haven't been doing it. Yeah. I'm quite surprised that the youngsters haven't, because earlier in the season, I think it was about Christmas time, they seem to be getting a lot of, like, Ochoa was starting games. Izan Moreno had 5 or 6 games where he was playing. Yeah. But I'd love to see more of all these youngsters, me. I really would.
Yeah, Antonito's the one. Obviously Aaron Ochoa is perhaps the more aesthetically pleasing, a bit more fun, but I think Antonito's the best of them. I think he looks like he's like, there's a few, I can't remember specific examples now, but I kept thinking to myself, oh, he looks like he's got a bit of fire about him as well. He wasn't taking any shit down that left wing off, because
for me, Antonito looks a better version of an Alex Calvo. Again, the unknown, but as you've just said, a bit more fight to him and everything. Alex Calvo were very much right. He's good. Get the ball to him.
Alex Calvo, I'd link more with Aaron Ochoa. I think more.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, obviously, like, Antonito stood up for himself. We haven't really mentioned it yet, but Merida were a bunch of shit houses, really, weren't they? They were really.
To be honest, I didn't expect them to end up with 11 men.
Yeah, but they were really quite good at doing the whole who gets the book in, and I was still surprised. But
first class shithousery from Merida.
Well, I can't remember if I tweeted it in the end or if I said it in the sort of the review I recorded after the game. But I think I said that this is the most consistent ref we've ever had, but only because he give every single touch of a player, both teams. Yeah, it was so frustrating. But apart from if it's in the box, he wasn't so interested. But anything, like, there was so many, like, anytime someone like even wobbled, I thought, there we go, there's a free kick, and every single time. So at least he was consistent. Malaga scored. Yay. I'm going to say, well, I wrote down, first of all, our best worked goal of the season. Yeah. I'm going to upgrade that slightly to best home goal of the season. I can't think of a better goal at La Rosaleda this year, but I'm happy to. No. I can't think of any like screamers or.
I can't argue with that whatsoever, Matt. It was the move of the match, and like you just said, one of the goals of the season for sure. Which is why this is so frustrating. This kind of goal shows the talented footballers that we've actually got when they want to play football, because it was such a relaxed build up, but you knew what were happening, and it worked perfectly good.
Well, no, it was like you said. We've said loads of times that maybe not so much in recent weeks, but in recent months, we're quite good at passing the ball around and keeping it. But this was where we did that, and then it was like a quick 1-2 and a quick through ball, and like it's just the speeding it up. And I couldn't believe it, actually. I thought, what a great pass from Danny Lorenzo. And it was only when I watched it back I realized there's Nelson Monte that's placing David Ferreiro with, David Ferreiro just needs to roll across the box, and Dione just needs to roll it into empty net.
The thing is, Matt, when you think about it, is this something what we don't do enough of?
Absolutely.
You're in La Rosaleda every week, and the amount of times we get the ball into a crossing position and it's wasted. I can't remember too many times where we've played through the centre effectively.
And I think this, Roberto he's had some really good headed goals this year, but I think he is better at sort of just launching himself with his feet, basically. And and this is why I've said, this is why when, I don't know, on previous podcasts where, I don't know, I feel like we've been a little bit critical of us passing the ball and keeping the ball. And I've said, no, that's all right. I don't mind us doing that. But it's with the expectation that right now we need to work on this thing. And we did it once in a game, and luckily it worked this time. But I don't know. It's frustrating. Like you said. Just a couple of other little things to mention. And well, it's not a little thing, I guess. Danny Sanchez disallowed goal. Obviously in the stadium, I had no idea. It was too fast. I've watched it back. I think if VAR existed in this,
thank you.
I think we would still be disallowed, but with the naked eye is really close. But
I saw it on one replay, the original, and I took some pelters in a group chat for it purely because I thought it was very, very tight.
Yeah,
like you say, it probably was offside, but I think, and I'm so glad that these guys aren't involved. But if our friends VAR are involved, I think they would have had a field day with all the lines that would have been drawing for probably 15 minutes. But it probably was the right call.
Yeah, and I do feel like in the sort of balance of without VAR, I think we've probably had more go in our favour this year than not. That's my vibe. So even if it was on, I don't know, it was good like control and finish actually from him when I watched him. I sort of thought he just sort of bumbled it in, but he did sort of got stuck under his foot a little bit, but then he dragged it from close range. I saw, and it's quite nice in a way, because I saw the flag go up and you just know, right, that's done.
Yeah, you knew,
it's not like you're waiting around for a bit. So I'm no complaints really there. I'm still happy with this VAR-less league. And I think I remember this rightly. I think you might have put it in the WhatsApp group, and I remember saying the exact same thing to Joe, and then you text there was the substitutions, the Juanpe for Gennaro and Joaquin for Puga, which was just like, well, what was the point really?
Yeah, it's pointless. It's basically giving players time, I guess. But absolutely nothing. You draw again. To mention again, the sixth bottom in league. We're playing them at home. It's 1-1 with 15 minutes left. Can we not just change formation a bit, or just add a bit of something else rather than left back?
Fair enough. If there's, I don't know, if like a point secures the playoffs, just take the point. But if we drop the point, well, it wouldn't really made a difference, would it? I would have rather go juggler a bit. And
unless Sergio Pellicer saw the Gearycast's Twitter feed at half-time saying at the moment we are in the playoffs, then I Sergio and the rest of the Malaga fans, I apologise. But
there is like that famous like Man City game in the 90s, isn't it, where they think they just need to draw to stay in the Premier League, and they take the ball in the corner, and then the crowd's like, no, guys, you need to score again. I can't remember the exact context of it, and they did get relegated.
Which would be very Malaga-ish.
Yeah. And also, like, I said Puga was great. I love Joaquin, so I can sort of go with that. Juanpe's awful. He's on the 5 minutes, and I can't remember.
Hasn't Wampe got like a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal or something?
I don't know. Yeah, he was one of our sort of like him. Well, him and Sangali were I guess Dione was the star signing, but those two were really hyped up, particularly Sangali. I'd forgotten actually. Again, I can't remember how I came across this. I've seen Sangali score against Malaga for Real Sociedad B. I don't know why I was looking at that game, but he did score at La Rosaleda against Malaga for.
And I'm sure people know, but who was the manager that day, Matt?
Yeah, that was going to be my next point. It was little known Xabi Alonso, because that's why I get a little bit annoyed when they say, and he's won this title in his first job. I say,
no.
Malaga beat him, so unlucky Bayern Munich. we can beat him. Although he did dick us, I remember in the game up in San Sebastian with a B team. There was signs there. So just quickly, just before we wrap things up, the more I thought about this, I wrote this on yesterday. I put maybe a slightly better performance than recent weeks. I do think so, but maybe I thought it was a lot better than it was. Maybe.
See, I'll be honest, mate. I didn't think we were very good at all. I just thought, I think we're just too slow. We're too lackadaisical. It's like we're sleeping our way into the playoffs. Against a team like Merida, with all due respect, in La Rosaleda, I'd expect us to beat most teams, never mind a team who's languishing near the bottom. Purely for that reason, I'd just like to see Malaga. And look, we're 35 games in now, and we've said the same. We'd just like them to play a little bit quicker.
Yeah, the inexplicable. Like I said, I don't know. Maybe, obviously, it might have been the Victorias and the sunstroke because it was very hot in La Rosaleda. But I did think we were sort of, I don't know, a bit more dynamic. But yeah, when I thought about it again last night and a bit today, and even like talking now, I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't that much better. And yeah, you do make a good point. We should really be beating these teams here. Again, like I don't really think there's much to say about it. I put it in the sort of agenda. There was more chants about Pellicer Division, like getting rid of Pellicer. I think we're going to go back and forth on that for weeks, aren't we? I think.
Yeah, definitely.
What I will say for Pellicer, and I'm a bit more of a champion of him. I'm not, like I said last week, I'm not absolutely bedded to the idea we've got to keep him, but he is handling it all with quite a lot of dignity, I think. And I think he speaks very well after the game. But then I sometimes think, oh, maybe he could do it just being a bit nastier. I don't know. But
hey, actually, Matt, he was a little bit nasty. Did you hear his comments on Kevin and David Larubia?
Yeah, I think, go on, remind me though, because I definitely remember thinking, fair enough.
Yeah, it's not really like dragging a player out in front of the media, but basically he said Larubia and Kevin are the two best trainers day in, day out, etc. But on game day, he says it just doesn't happen. So he's there getting a bit north. Well, he's telling the truth end of the day.
Yeah.
But in terms of like you've just said, like he'll protect the team after a bad performance like this. He'll say, they're tired. Everybody knows what we've got to do. Everybody respects La Rosaleda, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but tell us they were fucking shy. Let's work on what we've got to improve with.
Yeah. I suppose the positive thing there is at least Kevin's training well this time, because that's an issue in the past. Which I guess brings us to Jumbo and Biznaga, where I think I can see where they're going. So go on, surprise me with your Jumbo.
Well, it's a phrase that's becoming too common on this at the moment for Chumbos, but it could have been one of a couple, I think. But I'm sorry, Matt. It's definitely Kevin for me. I thought he were terrible and rightly dragged at half time.
No apologies here, because I'm going to choose Kevin too. I think, I can think of, and there wasn't actually that many choices for me, to be honest with you. I'm not saying
purely like a Chumbo for the team, really. Like in terms of Biznaga, we've spoken about our Biznaga. But the overall team, there were a lot of players what did the old Malaga performance of a silent performance. You don't really realise they're playing, they don't do it right, they don't do it wrong kind of thing. It's just as if they're making a team up.
Yeah. So Biznaga then, before I ask you your Biznaga, I know you put out a vote on the GibbyCast Twitter, and David Ferrero very much won that, which fair enough. Are you going with David Ferrero or someone different?
Well, like I say, we was in agreement that we had the two standout players on the right-hand side. So I'm not going to say my honourable mention first. I'm going to go straight into my business to give it away. But it's definitely going for our Rolls Royce, David Ferrero. In a weaker team performance, I thought he had a great game, along with Puga. Yeah. The only part of the pitch where we actually looked threatening coming from our right-hand side. And David Ferrero, since signing for us, has been a breath of fresh air. And he's going to be huge in the playoffs. So you either agree, Matt, or you go with the other guy, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, they if they'd be a double Biznaga for me, they were the only two. I should say, well, just before I say mine, David Ferrero now is if I don't know if we're going to do one, if we're going to have end the season awards, which I imagine we will this time. We have our obvious ones. But he's getting the conversation for me now.
Yeah,
he
100%.
is really, even though he's done half a season.
And we didn't expect it, did we?
No, absolutely
really didn't expect it.
They might, yeah, I suppose. To be fair, I was going to say one of the contenders who's obviously going to be Roberto too. I think they could both have a bit of a scrap on for surprise of the season. So
yeah.
But yeah, to be honest, brilliant. But for me, I thought Carlos Puga was better. I thought he was brilliant. I really impressed with him. But that was literally almost like a toss of a coin, and just because maybe I didn't expect it so much from Carlos Puga. And yeah, honestly, I think Joaquin's got a bit of a contention on his contender for his place now. So we'll see if he keeps it in the next game. I'm not saying it's done and dusted for me that he should lose his place, but Puga looked really good.
Puga just brings a little. I think Joaquin defensively is better than Puga, but going forward, I think Puga brings a little bit more what Joaquin doesn't.
Yeah, he's just a bit neater and tidier from what I mean. Again, I think this is only the third time I've seen him play, but this game I was like, oh, he's a really good footballer, and he's
and he loves a scissor.
Yeah,
he loves chucking a scissor out there.
and like David Ferrero's place is never in doubt, and there seems to be more of a link there. So yeah, still trying to think. Are we saying his name right? It did sound a little like poo too much, but. But I think that is just
Puga.
Yeah. And now it just sounds like a northerner saying
yeah. It does like.
Anyway, I think that's it, unless you have anything you really are determined to get off your chest.
I think that's everything, Matt. I think we've covered all angles on the review.
Indeed. So thank you for listening. We will have another podcast Thursday or Friday previewing our game at San Fernando, which will be on Sunday evening. I'm already signed up. I'm very much looking forward to another random Spanish town, which I'll probably never go. Well, I was going to say I'll probably never go to again until next season. But thank you, Luke Chambers. Anything else we need to plug, or we can plug later in the week, can't we?
I think that's it, Matt. I think I'm pretty positive we're back with a live stream for the game as well. Obviously, the kickoff time really chucked all of us apart. Not even just the lads in the stadium, but I know Nick were busy, Alex were fishing with Jude Bellingham and stuff like that. So they were just one of us. But no, thanks for having me, Matt, and enjoy your week, everybody. Vamos Malaga.
Thank you, Luke. And thank you guys for listening as always. Go tell a friend about us and subscribe and listen on YouTube. Well, watch on YouTube, listen on your podcast, and we will see you soon. Adios and vamos Malaga.